All right. Hey, everybody. Um, Welcome to the stream here, the Church Digital Jeff here. We started the stream kind of casual hanging out, and we've now got like six people hanging out with me here in the chat room here on Discord. I can't tell. My eyes are not getting good. I can't tell if I'm streaming this outside of Discord or not. But if you're watching this on demand, I stream every Tuesday, and you can come hang out with me Tuesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern. It's at Discord. Open a new web browser, go to discord.thechurch.digital. Discord.thechurch.digital to help you create a Discord account if you don't have one, and then it'll get you subscribed to the TCD server. And there's so much fun hanging out here on Discord. And so I've got Whitebeard, I got Hector, I got Tim, I got Tall Skinny Kiwi, Walt, and Melanie. So I mean that's at least three time zones in a couple countries on that. Tim, where are you from? I think you're the one that I'm blanking on. Looking at everybody, and I was in the middle. Yeah, so three time zones. I was in the middle of a story on how I am no longer a coffee snob. And so, by the way, if you're watching at home, I am not very. It's summer, like I'm kind of. It's not the summer doldrums, and it's not really senioritis. Like it's kind of busting at the seams right now through the church digital. I'm literally like texting Barbara Carnero because Barbara is our communications and connections person. And I'm like, Barbara, when can I say this? When can I say this? I don't want to hold back anymore. When can I say this? And the answer was not today. And so I'm not allowed, literally, I'm not allowed to tell you, the really cool stuff we're working on. Not yet. Not yet. It's coming soon. And so we are going to continue to push forward in some really interesting areas. But I'm in this really delicate space where I'm really excited about the stuff that I'm doing. And normally on the stream, I talk about what I'm really excited about, but I can't talk about what I'm really excited about because then, loose lips sink ships. And so I don't want to leak the Titanic to the bottom of the Pacific again. And so is the Titanic in the Pacific? Fact check that, Whitebeard. What ocean is the Titanic actually sitting in at this moment? And the answer cannot be outside of Ghostbusters, New York City per se Ghostbusters 2. I actually watched that the other day and was like, oh, I didn't remember that part where the Titanic literally shows up in Ghostbusters 2. Hey, good times. Was it Ghostbusters 2 or was it Ghostbusters? I watched them both in the same night. Actually, I'm pretty sure I binged all four. I'm not really a big fan of the girl takeover. Um, but I binged all four within a 24-hour period, 2 days the other day. The RMS Titanic sank in the North Atlantic Ocean on April 15th, 1912, about 380 miles southeast of Newfoundland, Canada, and 1,300 miles east of New York City. Whitebeard, you use Google to the best of them, my friend. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. So, we are getting a very relaxed, conversational, the church digital Jeff today. Um, no loose lip sync ships, although I'm so excited. I really, I can't sit on this, but I have to, or at least until she tells me it's okay. But I was in the middle of a really funny story about my lack of church snobbery or church snobbery. That's a Freudian slip. Interesting story around my coffee snobbery. I bought I may have put this in Discord. I bought a coffee machine, a Keurig, the other day, a Keurig cold coffee machine. That is, it's one of these. It was like $60. It was on sale for 60. I think Keurig's got the new model, but it's kind of like put the little thing in, and it makes it hot, but then it sits on it and cools it down, and so that way when it actually goes into the cup with ice, it doesn't liquefy the ice. Doesn't liquefy the ice as fast as if it was hot. I'll say it that way. And so, because I love iced coffee, and so I bought that, And the 21-year-old version of Jeff officially would kick 46-year-old version of Jeff's arse for buying a Keurig. Like when Amy and I we were in college and out of college, we were coffee freaking snobs. We would that Starbucks wasn't a thing back then. This is like late '90s, and it wasn't actually. I don't think there were any Starbucks, and so we would only go to like certain coffee shops, and we would drink from the really big latte cups and the with the fancy names and like the certain beans. We would grind our own beans. Like I've even got a this is what I was going to tell Melanie. I've got a slow drip iced coffee machine. Like it's one of these that it looks like if you watch MASH, this is going to date myself, but if you watch MASH, it's like how they had a martini machine. You like put it in the top and like it goes all the way through and it makes the martini. Like let me literally, it looks like a chemistry set on this slow drip iced coffee where you put the ice water up top and then it slowly drips into the filter that's got the ground up coffee and then it's kind of spins in and eventually goes in the thing. And so literally like you can make a 16 ounces of slow drip iced coffee over a period of like 24 to 36 hours. I mean, literally, I'm talking like one day. That's how slow drip. And oh my gosh, that was the strongest cup of coffee. I love it. I used to, pre health issues. Oh my gosh, I would drink stuff like that, and I was so busy around. You would drink that, and just like, and I would always get like the strongest coffee possible, and oh my gosh, so good. Caffeine was like just injecting it straight into the vein. So a slow drip iced coffee machine. I got it from Amazon. I think my wife got it for me for Christmas one year, but it was on Amazon, and it was literally I think it came from like China or Taiwan or someplace. Like it was a foreign box. Um, but yeah, I don't do. Um, I do. I mean, I do Starbucks a lot because honestly, there's not anything other than Starbucks in Miami. There's Starbucks, and then there's Cuban coffee, Cuban bakeries. Like there is no non-Cuban bakery coffee house other than Starbucks. Like there's not. I see tall, skinny Kiwis talking about Pete's Coffee. Like you've got to go in a mall for Pete's Coffee, and I don't even think like not that many places have um, Pete's Coffee. There was a coffee house that was in the mall that I'm at, the Falls here off of 136th Street in Miami, and my daughter used to love to go there because they had boba tea. My daughter's addicted to boba tea, and yeah, shut down. So, but my daughter got like a 5-gallon bucket of the boba bubbles. I forget. I don't know what they're called. The juice balls that you put in boba tea. So she makes her own boba tea here, and now I make my own iced coffee. And what's funny is that slow drip machine that makes coffee so good. I the other day I realized I haven't used it since Christmas Day, 2023. Literally not made a cup of coffee with it. It's incredible, but it's like who's got time to wait 36? Even if I fast tracked it, it's still 18 hours. And it's like, man, I'm not thinking far enough ahead in my life to make really good coffee 18 hours later. And so we went ahead and we bought one of these um, Keurigs to fast track my life. And the coffee tastes like crap. I mean, it's good. It keeps me awake, which is the goal. I'm not looking for it to taste good as much as it is get me caffeine in my blood so I can stay awake. Um, but it was funny out of college, literally. How did I tell this the other day? I told this to, I think, Barbara. Out of college, we actually were flipping a coin, my wife and I, which one of us was going to start our entrepreneurial business. And so my wife she had a degree in business. She got her undergraduate in business. and she actually took a class in entrepreneurism, whatever. That's back 1999, and her project was to open a coffee house. And so, like, she developed the complete business model for college on how it developed business plan, everything for how, like, what vendors to buy the beans from, where she's going to put the shop, what the rent is. Like, she did all the legwork to develop the business plan to open a coffee house in Fort Worth, Texas, in the Texas Christian University area. And this was before Starbucks existed. And so we almost, like, literally, she was fighting for her thing and I was fighting for, at the time, ebeliever.com, which 20 years later became the Church.digital. And so it's I to this day, I don't think we would have won Starbucks. Like, I don't think we would have won that battle. We didn't have the veracity for that. But Panther Coffee is down here. You're right, but there it's too far away. Um, White Rose, I'd have never heard of that. Vice City, never heard of that. True Baristas, never heard of that. Neverland Coffee, never heard of that. Yeah, maybe that's downtown. Maybe that's in the urban areas. Whitebeard is totally Googling me now. Maybe I need to get out more. This is true. I had breakfast this morning at a Jewish deli. It's called Lots of Locks. And so I had a breakfast meeting. We just signed on. I'm excited about this. A friend of mine is coming on board as the Church Digital's business administrator. And so there's, yeah, I can say this, a loose leak, a tease of what's coming. There's a lot of changes coming, a lot of opportunities for the Church Digital. And as we started looking at what's ahead, I was like, okay, we need to actually get somebody that understands the business stuff. They're like, it was funny. Was given this like 8-page donor policy sheet that's talking about securities and annuities and how to accept stock and property, and they were like, hey, can you approve? Could you approve this? Are you okay with all of this? And I'm like, I don't even understand what any of this is. Like, this is not even this. You might as well be handing me something in like Greek. This is oblivious to me. And so they bring it on, Charlie Barham. And so excited about that. Charlie's been a friend of mine for, I don't know, maybe 15 years, maybe 20 years. Like, it's been a long time. He was a high level volunteer for me, a camera director, actually a guy that I taught to camera direct. And he turned around and actually became like one of the best camera directors we had at Christ Fellowship Miami, and trained a dozen or so other camera directors, and just a really strong guy. And so had breakfast with him the other day at Lots of Locks, and he's like, do you have anything like volunteering that I could do for the organization? And I looked at him, I was like, it's funny, I wanted to talk to you about some things that maybe you could volunteer with and help us with the organization. And so started going down the road, and yeah, we've got a new business administrator coming on board, and really, really excited about that. But so I had breakfast with him this morning at Lots of Locks Deli, which is a Jewish deli. I had my normal scrambled eggs and side of fruit. I passed on the bagels, even though their bagels are in freaking credible. And but it was the same place. I told Charlie, I used to go to the same place, Lots of Locks Deli, when I was in middle school. My mom would take, and even elementary school, my mom would take me to Lots of Locks Deli a couple times a week for breakfast, before she took me to school. And so literally sat at the same table with Charlie as I sat with my mom. It's interesting. Some of those same waitresses are still like running around there 30 some, almost 35 years later. It's crazy. Hey, Alice. Alice, how are you doing? It's good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Appreciate that. We are super casual today, hanging out. Um, Alice is. Oh, by the way, I'm seeing here, guys. I tall, skinny Kiwi. I can't say it. I cannot say it. You had scrambled eggs and lox for breakfast. Had to make myself though. No Jewish deli near me. Yeah, I can appreciate that. Alice is in Alice. Is it England proper or one of the surrounding areas? I forget with you, but this would be the third country represented on the stream. So that's a cool moment. Thanks for coming on. So Alice is one of our VR friends, and so I know I've had several conversations with you in VR. I don't actually think I've ever seen you not in avatar form, because even the recording stuff that we did, you were in VR, I think. And so Alice that is from that world. I hate to say. Actually, I don't know that I hate to say that, but it's just like that's just the environment we know. And it's interesting. We started talking about with the Church Digital. We started talking about this idea of platforms as places, the way that that way that, like, I don't know, the International Mission Board, oh well, anybody is looks at, like, China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Canada, um, Brazil, as the way that they look at locations, physical spaces, is the way that we look at Twitch, Discord, virtual reality, a lot of these platforms. Um, and I love that people like Tall Skinny Kiwi, like Alice, are in spaces like virtual reality, doing ministry, being the light, being missionaries in that space. Um, and so having, y'all representing, speaking into that, and being a part of it is incredible. And the heart of the Church Digital has been and will always be, how can we resource and help not only this generation of digital missionaries and digital pastors and planters, but how can we help even start and equip that next generation that's coming along. And so, but enough on that. A Tall Skinny Kiwi Jedi Wave, you will tell us. LOL. I'm promising you guys, I can't. I've said too much already, but I am, for me, there's my life is in, I don't know why it's this way, but my life really kind of works in phases. Maybe it's the entrepreneurial sine wave type of thing, or maybe it's just the way that calendaring works right now for me. But I really operate in seasons of, like, vision and dreaming, and I'm not the guy that will ever say I had a vision from God, and that's not to say that God can't or God won't, but, like, I don't live in that space of, oh, God told me, that. I just have never really, I don't know, I've never had experiences like that. I'm not as charismatic as some of my friends are in that space. And so when I say vision, like, where there's clarity, where there's understanding, and so there's lots of dream opportunities, for me. And then there's seasons of pedal to the metal, nose to the grindstone, and just, get it done and build. And so it's like dreaming and building, dreaming and building, dreaming and building. And for me, it seems like the dreaming is always during the summer, and then it's always during, like, the late fall. And then the building is always, like, January to May, January to Easter, and then after Easter, it kind of starts to get into the dreaming. And then the building and the executing is also in the fall, coming off of summer, up until, like, Thanksgiving, where it gets to be dreaming again. And so, like, that wasn't necessarily a pattern I picked up from the church, like working in church, but it does kind of pick up with, like, the seasons of church staff life and things like that. So, but this has been a really good season of dreaming, and I especially centered around. I feel like the leadership team that we've got with TCD right now, and there's one or two roles that we're going to announce here, hopefully in the next month or so, once we get some funding going. Um, like, we're just keep pushing this thing up, man. I'm so excited about where we're going. This has really been the first time since I started this thing in 2018, where I've got a team around me that's excited, that's aligned, that is capable Like this is the best that it's been, and from top to bottom, and even like engagement, and I'll be honest, half that's honestly half, but a big part of that's even been Discord and moving the community in here and starting to get more engagement and excitement from those around. Like it's really, the community component adds a big piece to what we're doing at the Church Digital, and even having, like, I was having, hey Flat Cap, I was even having a conversation with Whitebeard 30 minutes ago about some of the doldrums that kind of hits in the summer, and we've got some people that are taking some time off in the summer with the Church Digital just to take August to breathe, and which is so good, and it's so healthy, and it's so necessary, because come September it's hit the ground running again. And oh my gosh, Flat Cap, I have been, I well, and he missed the last leadership meeting, but hopefully you watched the video and you've seen they're all trying to get me to leak some of the secrets, and Flat Cap, you're not allowed to. Loose lips sink ships. Loose lips sink ships. Thus the Titanic reference earlier. So don't tell anybody, Flat Cap. We're good. If you are listening at podcast and not watching on YouTube, I gave Flat Cap the I am staring right at you, two fingers to the eyes, like I do all the time with my kids. I don't know that that's means anything, to Flat Cap and I, but yeah, it's all good. Huh. So what are we doing today? What do you want to talk about? Somebody give me a topic. Put it in chat. This is a up in the air, loose conversation here. Ryan Seacrest, what are we talking about? He's now the new host of. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not Seacrest. That's Secrets. Whitebeard wants to talk. Man, you guys are so singularly focused. It's like you're begging me to tell you something, and I just don't want to do it. I just don't want to. I am in the process. I keep touching this mic arm. Um, Friday, I'm stripping everything down. I've got a friend of mine coming over, Garrett Silgi. Garrett and I run an AVL company together, um, called TCD and Integration. It's basically an AVL company. We do installation and purchases for AVL gear and streaming equipment for churches. And so he's helped me build my rig, and actually I posted a photo of my rig in general chat earlier today. And I've been convicted, because if you saw the photo today, the desk is a little messy. Cabling on the backs, I've kept adding stuff to it, haven't kept it clean. Actually, this mic arm, I want to replace it, and I have to do mic arm. I've really actually wanted to even upgrade and replace my mic. And so, but I'm finally like, we're going to strip everything down Friday, and it's just like, get it all down. If it doesn't need to be on the desk, get it off the desk. I'm trying to get rid of some of my onboard preamps and stuff like that, and really simplify some things down. Is Hilmy in the room? I don't think Hilmy is in the room, because if she gives me permission, I will say it, but it has to be from her. I in communications world, I answer to Hilmy, and so in Hilmy we trust. Specifically on this. Are you using a Mac or PC for your streaming setup? I see an iPad, but I think I couldn't. That's a good point. I actually, if you look in the photo off to the left, you'll see like 6 or 7 Funko Pops that are actually on my desk, not including but not limited to Ronald Reagan, John F. Kennedy, Darth Maul, and OB. OB is the newest, from Loki. But basically, behind all the Funko Pops, I have a Mac. What do they call it? Mac Studio, Mac Creative Studio. What's the studio term? Like the desktop, the big giant Mac Mini, but not the Mac Mini, the one that's like the really expensive one. I was burning through, confession, Tim. I was burning through laptops like crazy, just toasting laptops left and right, and because I was just overpowering the processor and always leaving it plugged in, and so the batteries were frying out. And so I moved everything over to this desktop and just bought not high. I think I bought the low end studio, but it's overpowered it. Like I've got 36 megs of gig or gigs of RAM, 36 gigs of RAM. And I mean, that's why I can do Discord and Riverside and 2, 3, 4, 5 things simultaneously. Platforms running at the same time because all of it is operating on this overpowered machine. And so, not all of us have an opportunity to do that. I just actually the other day I helped Dr. John yesterday upgrade him to a I think he got an M3 MacBook Pro, the 14-inch one, whatever the new model is. He just got the MacBook Pro, and it's like he's been night and day performance for him compared to what he was. He was on like a i5, I want to say, and hadn't upgraded in like 6 years. So like that's boring. Uh, it's just heavy stuff. Hey Megan, how you doing? Um, Alienware. Is that what you have? Alienware? Flat Cap? I don't know that I've ever had a conversation with Flat Cap about tech. That's interesting. Um, yeah, I'll probably end up giving this mic arm away, and so I probably need to put that out there. I used to know the guy. Dell was based in Austin, Texas, and so the church that I was at, Austin Ridge, I was actually oversaw all digital technology communications over there, production at that. And one of the guys, one of my volunteers, I asked him one day what he did for Dell, and he handed me his business card. It was the goofiest business card. It wasn't like Dell corporate like I was expecting. Um, and his title was Captain Audio. Okay, what does this mean? Essentially, this dude was responsible for anything that had to do with audio underneath the Dell umbrella. Now, okay, Dell's not known, world renowned for, their audio stuff. Although they were doing the remember when you could get the iPods, either the Apple version or the Dell iPod version that kind of ran simultaneously for a stretch. Apple licensed the iPod to Dell. That was in that stretch when I knew this guy. And so, yeah, Captain freaking out. Would you love that? Yeah, I'm responsible for anything that has to do with audio in Dell. Audio cards inside Dell computers, audio whatever. Like it was a full. And the guy actually could mix pretty well. I was expecting him to be kind of stiff and nerdy, but got him behind a soundboard. That guy could mix a rock show pretty good, and so good stuff. Um, what churches? Tim Lim is asking. What churches do you know that are using Discord successfully? I know of Lux, and they're killing it. Elevation Youth that's I guess Elevation Youth is. I haven't hung out with them too much. Yeah, I would be interesting Alice's take on that. Let me give you one that's more brick and mortar. That has been doing well. It's oh my gosh, I just did a webinar with this guy. And I'm blanking on the name. Lighthouse Church in the Maryland area. Give me a second. Evan Connolly is his name, and the church that he's at is at. I'll give you the domain name. It's lighthouse.church. Lighthouse.church. Actually, I had a conversation with my friend Evan. Interesting story with Evan. He started as a media production volunteer at his church, like running the AVL gear. Actually, I think he started running the ProPresenter slides. It may have been PowerPoint back at the time. But he went from that to a part-time IT director, to a full-time IT director on staff, to a online director of online ministries. And the church just ordained him earlier this year as an online pastor. And I'm like, dude, what a freaking incredible story. The church wasn't interested in doing online ministry pre-COVID, and even during COVID, they were like, not really sure about this. But he cast vision and fought for it and got leadership to buy in every freaking step of the way. And so, really exciting to see how things have come together with that. But I would do, but what he did was he actually had a volunteer um, say, hey, let's go through um, a reading back in January. Hey, let's go through a reading plan together as a for the new year. And so he picked a Life Church Bible read or a Life what's it called Univision U version Bible reading plan, and and instead of doing like the conversation through the U version, he said let's open up a Discord server channel at the same time, and we can just collaborate on that as a group. And so that grew where they did multiple reading plans and they kept inviting more and more people in. Once the first reading plan was over, they did a second one, they did a third one, and kept expanding it out. They had so much success creating that community aspect. They went ahead and opened it up not only to the online church and not only to the online volunteers. It started online volunteers, then it opened up to online church, and now the entire physical church has access to and is part of what's happening in the Discord server. And so I was stated um, that soccer moms really struggle with Discord, and maybe they do. I do think this. I think that you're seeing a trend towards more adoption with Discord. I think Discord's getting older, and I think Discord's getting more mature. And unfortunately, what that means about any day now, some new platform's going to come out, and all the Gen Zers and all the Gen Alphas are going to head over to that because mom and dad are hanging out on Discord. I got to find something else, cool. Rebel's got to go somewhere else, and somebody else has got to carry that badge because I don't think Discord's. I think Discord may be maturing too quickly. It'll be interesting to see how Discord battles that, or if they can keep the Rebel tag. And you know what? I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Somehow YouTube figured out how to do that. Somehow YouTube has figured out how to keep Rebel and be mom and dad friendly at the same time. And maybe it's because the content is so different. My son's watching Hey Dude or whatever videos on there, and I'm creating my stuff and watching my stuff, and my dad's watching his stuff. Like it's the platform is truly a platform and not stylized. And I think that's what keeps YouTube fresh. And so it'll be interesting to see if Discord adjusts at all towards a shifting audience, or by adjusting, maybe it causes a shifting audience. It's interesting. Conversation for a different day. Hey, Alice, this is a great conversation for you to walk in on. Success depends on your goals, but there are lots of online church communities that use Discord as a base of communication. Yeah, and that's what you said is solid. There are lots of churches: VR Church, God Squad. What is NRF? I don't think that I know that. Meta Church, VR, Checkpoint, Cornerstone. In metaverse churches tend to lean more like this in the digital community. I think there in some of the churches that Andy's working with in his learning community. That would be a great question. I don't know who actually asked. Tim, you started this conversation. We're actually doing a learning community right now. I think they're actually meeting right now that Andy is leading with 5 or 6 churches or global organizations, missional organizations, towards understanding how to do asynchronous communities. And some of those are Discord. I think he's got one that was looking at WhatsApp. I think he's got a couple that are exploring Mighty Networks. Slack, I think, was also. But we teach a different, and organizations like VR Church and God Squad, like what she's talking about, Alice, is a completely separate vantage point of view. Like our view of community looks a lot different than how the average church is going to look at digital community. This may be a controversial take, and I'm not even sure everybody in TCD agrees with me here, but like I actually think it's hard. It's very hard. I'm tempted to say impossible, but it's very hard to create digital community using social media tools. And the reason because social media, Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok, it's so biased towards one way communication. Um, Platforms like Discord, Slack, WhatsApp, Facebook groups, maybe Mighty Networks, Circle, like there's many that really lean more towards two-way communication. And that's really where community comes in. Social media is a great way to get your message out in front of new eyes. But to listen to somebody, I mean, that's a million people talking back at you at the same time. And um, that's the challenge. Alice has got an interesting comment here. You need the community to create community, not just a couple of leaders. I mean, that's a great point. It's what comes first, the horse or the cart, so to speak. That's why a lot of times I'll talk about, even in the physical environment, bring in ringers, especially like in, this is interesting, not the conversation for here, but like online chat hosts, like even it's a lot easier to keep people engaged in chat in this stream right here because there's 6 of you on right now, and somebody will leave, and because 5 of them are on, somebody else will come on, and you guys will stay in because hey, there's 6 people around. That's great. And then I'll put this on demand and talk about it, and other people will come on. And Tim, I don't think I've seen you on too many of these streams. Whitebeard, I see all the time. Alice comes in when she's available every once in a while, and it's great. Build relationships, talk with them, and learn more about the way. Hey, Megan, I don't know that I saw you here earlier, but hey. The challenge is when you're starting something new and you don't have that critical mass. And so, man, a lot of times I'll like tell people, bring in ringers. Like personally ask 2 people just to sit there and act normal. Don't act like you're a host or a professional, just or like you're even supposed to be there. Just you're a new casual person that's curious about what's going on, and ask a lot of good questions and behave like we want the audience to behave. And that creates the culture, that creates the environment of what you're looking for. Um, Tim shares, I've been that's my frustration. I've been trying to do it myself and get people to catch the vision, but I can't do it myself. You can't do it yourself. When we were doing assessments and talking to people that were planting digital churches, that'd be my favorite question to ask Tim. I would, who's buying into this vision with you? It's so hilarious. I would ask that question. I asked that question of a husband and wife. We were co-planting. They were co-planting together as a church. Who's buying into this vision with you? Nobody. What do you mean nobody? We don't need anybody. We're going to do all the work ourselves. You don't need you don't need funding. You don't need volunteer support. You don't need worship. You don't need no. We're going to do it all ourselves. Okay. I tried to convince them so many times. And to be honest, those guys lasted 3 months before they shut it down because I couldn't get traction. The reality is, if you can't even convince your friends of what you're doing, how are you going to convince your strangers? And so, I remember as a digital pastor at a physical church, um, I actually had staff people, because I was at a multi-site campus, and so you could give money at particular campuses. And I had staff people giving it to the online campus because I was casting so much vision to what online was doing, the people were reaching. I was telling so many stories, and I was getting them to buy in. And like the production guys, when they weren't serving at doing production, they were serving in online. And the missions department was loving what I was doing and trying to engage and serve, and was buying into that. And so it's almost like catching and spreading out. And so it almost has to be infectious. And so, yeah, I would encourage anybody to um, to spread out, and to try some different things. I just was to get people to buy in before you get going. I just saw Tim. No, it's not Crossroads in Cincinnati. Crossroads in Cincinnati doesn't call it church. Maybe they do call it church anywhere. Do they call it church anywhere? They've rebranded that thing 3 or 4 times. I'm not even sure what they're calling it right now. But it's a different deal. When I want to say that Megan's church was the first, I can equitably say that Megan's church was calling it Church Anywhere before anybody else on the planet was. Like that. That's not up for conversation. What Tyler and Megan have done has been really interesting, um, digitally, micro, and that. Arguably, Tyler and Megan's small church has had small church. You're 1,000 people in a small town of 3,000, but you've had more success digitally per capita than even like the what Crossroads in Cincinnati has. And I love Crossroads. They're friends, but at least I would put you all in the same sentence, especially in innovation. It would be innovative churches in America: Crossroads, Lifechurch, Saddleback. Stuff Jay's doing under the radar is incredible. He's not even talking about it. First Capital, Churchome. There's your top 5. Pastor Chat and Churchome. Um, Small, medium-sized budget church. First Capital Christian. Uh, Jay told me 97% of the people that watch online watch on demand. Only 3% watch live. Unfreaking believable how he's generating that much. Now, yeah, okay, on demand's always going to be more than live, but 97 to 3, he's working really hard creating marketing to drive marketing to engage with the content online, and he's honestly he's one of the best at the planet at doing that. Life Church is just all over the place, and Crossroads, how they're building it into their strategy and developing apps specific to that is great. Highlands Fellowship. Yeah, I remember talking with you, Tim. I'm sorry, blanked on that earlier. But yeah, you should. Anyway, there's a lot of lessons to learn. Yeah, a church of 1,000 in a town of 3,000. That does sound crazy. I always feel weird when I say that stat. Megan, I'm not lying when I say that. Is Tyler turning me into a liar? Tyler's not turning me into a liar. I'm sure. I've never been there. Um, I will one day go to there, but today's not that day. Um, I was actually going to be up there in the neighborhood. I was trying to like jump over. I was going to speak at a conference at their church, and that conference got canceled. And like we've been trying to figure out reasons. JMO's been there many times, several times, I think, and that's actually not too far from Flat Cap, I think. Um, Interesting. It's some of the stuff that Jay's working on, and actually, Pastor Chat actually is opening this up with Churchome. I'm looking at what Flat Cap's saying. Since they don't engage live in most cases, what do you miss if you watch VOD? Plus VOD, you can watch at 2 times speed. It's interesting. I don't want to be like, well, back in my day, but we were running an experiment with, okay, so the top 5 churches, innovation: Life Church, Crossroads, Saddleback. Megan, type your First Capital Christian in there because that's number 4. And Churchome. Somebody Google Churchome for me. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's Churchome in Pacific Northwest, somewhere in Washington area. Um, put some website addresses in there if that helps. Yeah, Judah Smith Churchome, which is weird. Okay, listen. Yeah, okay. Bieber goes to the church. What does that mean? How is that? Like Judah Smith is a celebrity pastor. I'm not saying anything about celebrity pastors wearing tight jeans, whatever. I don't want to get into that. Pastors with shoes, what is this? Pastor sneaks or whatever the deal is. Um, I would say that they have a ridiculous strategy for how to engage, and disciple people entirely in digital space. Like they are one of the few churches of their size, even, that has leaned in and said, we are going to disciple you digitally. Actually, I remember pre-COVID, he got ripped. Judah Smith got ripped on Fox News for saying that he wanted to disciple people via mobile app. And the U.S. church crucified him for it, like ridiculed up and down. Preachers and sneakers. That's what I was trying to say. And so like it was really ugly. But the stuff that they're doing, I had one of their former campus pastors. They actually shut down a number of multi-site campuses. Their director of ministries told me once, Jeff, we can pay millions of dollars to disciple thousands of people digitally, or we can pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to disciple millions of people digitally. Like the scalability of digital discipleship, I mean, at some point you get a tipping point and it just goes unparalleled. And they're, because Bieber is Bieber and Bieber says something on Instagram about the church. I mean, I've heard the stories where their app gets hundreds of thousands of downloads for no reason whatsoever without notification. And so, man, they shut down some of these campuses. They're moving completely to a microsite strategy. Even it was at one point, the only two campuses was Los Angeles and in the Pacific Northwest. And they opted to even shut down the LA and turn it into a series of house churches and microsites that are operating digitally. But the one thing, the groundbreaking thing, and I'm actually doing a webinar with Rezi in August on this, with Churchome and Dr. John. But we're going to talk about their pastor chat, where you can literally on a mobile app, you can press, the intercom.io button, that intercom.com button that pops up. You can press that button and have immediate access to a pastor. They fired their campus pastors. They shut down their physical locations. Well, they didn't fire them. They retasked them to become pastor chat pastors. And so seminary trained, ordained pastors are now answering calls, text messaging, and engaging with people via software like intercom.io. They use a different platform. And what's fascinating, I had a conversation with one of these physical campus pastors, transitioned over to this new pastor chat model. This is the direct quote. Jeff, I am pastoring and more involved in people's lives in 1 week of pastor chat than I am in 1 year as a multi-site megachurch pastor. More activity spiritually in people's lives over the course of a week than I am in a year. Why do we not think digitally? Not to mention it's pennies on the dollar. Actually, I asked him a question because the intercom, the software that I thought the pastor chat was on was intercom.com, and I think it's like $130 a month. And I was like, hey, I mean that's cheap, right? And he's like, no, we're actually cheaper than that. We use this software platform over here, and it's like $89 a month. For $89 a month, you can build in the functionality on your website or mobile app to get people access to your pastors to do that. This is where I feel like the old man get off my lawn. I was doing that back in like 2017 through liveperson.com. Yeah, Churchome does. Churchome does this, right? Pastor chat, Tim. And so that's the what I would say is you can go back on the Church Digital podcast. I had a conversation with Evan Connolly talking about this. And if you want to listen to me talk with Churchome about this coming up very soon, it's at resi.io/ what is it? Resilient Church. I just put that in chat as well. So you can sign up for, I'm doing a webinar. I want to say like the last week of August. I don't know. All the information is on that link I just put in there. Everything's free towards that. Resi may try to sell you an encoder, but say no. It works out. Anyway, it's been good. What time is it? Holy cow. I've been going for almost an hour. I didn't feel like that. I'm literally just hanging out here. This has been good. I appreciate the question, Tim. A parallel movement to bricks and mortar churches going digital is banking. The last banking just moved out of the New Zealand. People no longer go to the bank, but they do manage their finances through banking apps. Yeah, I was actually talking about this the other day. There's an interesting parallel. I do think banking's an example of that. We're starting to see down here in Miami some restaurants that actually are more like to go than eating in. They're really not putting much value at all in tables or sit down service. It's much more to go service. As a matter of fact, the area McDonald's recently changed their sign to McDelivery, indicating it's more about to go than going in, and they're not putting value in expanding the east seating area as much as simplifying it. Taking up more and more space for the self service kiosks when people do go in. It's all about getting it to go. There's some interesting business terms centered around this. The introvert economy is part of it, where business insiders talked about this, where the introvert economy talks about how there's this new model of people that are not looking for large experiences or things like this. It's a growing percentage of people, and digitally to engage with introvert economy with people introvertedly instead of trying to create the mass shows and the mass experiences. Yes, the mass experiences are good for some, but if you look at the US, 25% of people are engaging now in US churches. 75% are not. Interestingly, spirituality is at a rise in the US. So maybe they're not moving away from God, but they're really not finding ways to connect with people in those environments, or they're uncomfortable doing that. And so doing something different to reach someone different is always the goal. But then the other part is, you'll hear it talked about like going the last mile. Like it's a battle for the last mile, meaning how do we get to the home? How does this food at the kitchen, at the restaurant, how does it get into people's homes? The battle is for that last mile. Um, the battle for the church, I would say, is people are going to be digesting content. People are looking for community. People are looking for connection. They're looking for relationships digitally. The question is going to be, is the church going to be an advocate for that, or is the church going to be a deterrent for that? The U.S. Surgeon General, interestingly, earlier this year, I think, they came out with this massive, what do you call it? Epidemic of loneliness. It's a 150-page report about the epidemic of loneliness that American Gen A and Gen Zers are facing. This is the most connected audience in the history of all time, in the history of America. And they are going on less dates. They are more socially awkward. They are more disconnected. They are more lonely. They're more suicidal. They're more depressed. And not wrong by any stretch. And while, the uninformed is quick to cite, some of the damning issues of digital, of technology, of social media, and social media is a cesspool. It's interesting. The Surgeon General, the U.S. Surgeon General, not a Christian, it's actually mutual friends with some friends of mine. He talks about how digital community is one of his 6 action steps to cure the epidemic of loneliness in American teens. Effective use of digital community. Digital community is not something to run away from. It's something we should be moving towards. It's interesting. Walt says the world is a cesspool. It's so right, right? I mean, how can we not expect the world to act like the world? Even like, I don't want to get political, but even some of the, Olympic whatever with the 12 guys at the table, the mockery of what that is. Don't at me. I don't want to get into it. But the world is going to act like the world, and we can't get offended by the world. We don't need to run away from the world. We need to run towards it. It's interesting. I've got Alice in here. I'll tell the story. It's not about Alice. That's an awkward transition. But I was speaking on virtual reality churches up in Chicago, I think. I think this one was at Chicago. And I was speaking on virtual reality churches, maybe an audience of 50, 75 people in the room. One of my, I don't want to say smaller, like yay me, but it was a smaller, more intimate setting. And I was talking about VR chat, and I was actually every time I said the word VR chat, and when I said the word VR chat, I talk about this in my book. There was a girl, maybe in her early 20s, kind of sitting up here off to my left, and she kind of falls out of her seat, and it was enough to be awkward that the room kind of laughs. Like there's kind of a chuckle and a stirring. I didn't say anything. Honestly, I felt like she fell as she was front row, literally just off here to my left. And I thought she fell out of her seat. I'm like, am I that boring right now? And it was awkward. This wasn't Alice. I feel like I implied it was Alice. It wasn't. As I'm telling the story, I want to make sure this is not Alice. And but I kept telling, I kept talking. Unfortunately, I kept talking about VR chat, maybe 5 or 6 times over the span of 3 minutes. And every time I said the word VR chat, which is a virtual reality world, which is the cesspool of virtual reality, I would say, the red light district, commonly referred to. But every time I said VR chat, this girl, early 20s, had a noticeable tick, twinge, shudder, shake, movement. Like it was, okay, something the crap is wrong here. And we got an issue. Um, and so I fortunately I was kind of wrapping up one of my sessions, and we are going to transition into something else. It was time for a break, and so seeing how this girl was reacting, and she was like verklempt and sad, and I mean, it looked like she was crying, literally on the front row, just off to my left. And I was like, hey, you know what? Let's take a 10-minute break. Bathrooms are that way, I'm told. Coffee's downstairs. Everybody back here and call it 10 minutes, right? And the room starts to echo out. And there was this file out, and there was this one woman who caught my eye who was leaving. And I kind of like motioned to her, and she understood. I did not know this woman. I didn't know the girl either. But I'm like, I'm not gonna have a conversation with a emotional girl in an empty room. I need somebody else. And so the girl stayed sitting, looking down, and and this woman stays and she sits, and the woman doesn't really talk, she just listens. And so I was like, what's going on, what's wrong, talk to me, get me up to speed. She tells me her story, where she was, in her opinion, literally raped in virtual reality in VR chat. Some of the stuff, and this was before she found Christ, this was in her teens. Some of it was willingly, some of it was unwillingly, some of it was forced. She was talking about gang action. She would, like, she's talking about being forced to strip in clubs, and like, okay, part of me hearing this is like, could you not turn off the headset? Part of me is like, this girl is so damaged by what she experienced via pixels that I cannot even say the word VR chat, the platform in the world that this happened in, without her experiencing trauma. Like, that's how thick it was. And so we ended up having just a 5-minute conversation where she opens up, and actually I connected her to some people after the fact to a virtual reality church, some of Alice's, my friends. Um, but it was really interesting. Her closing line to me was, because of what VR chat, because of what happened to me in VR chat, the church has no business in VR chat. That was her stance. And she was bitter, and she was angry, and she was not real happy that I was talking about churches in virtual reality when that she walked into that session. And I told her, I was like, because of what happened to you, that's not the reason the church should run away from it. But that's the mandate that we have to be in there. Somebody has to be the light. Somebody has to be the missionary. Somebody has to be, not to reclaim it. I was like, the darkness is going to act dark. But that doesn't mean that we run away from it. That means that we're the light shining in it. We need the church in digital and virtual space. We need digital missionaries doing their thing, utilizing tools to impact people. It's funny, I've started using this language. We are at a freaking war. We're at war digitally. In war context, you build a beachfront and you claim this land and you say we are soldiers, we are fighting for this, and you take every inch possible. And in many ways, I look at what virtual reality is. I look at what Cornerstone, what VR Church, what JPO, what DJ Soda, what I mean, shoot, when I talk about Alice and I tell Alice's story, I talk about Alice being the person of peace of Rec Room. And if I find somebody that wants to plant a church in virtual reality, I give them Alice's name. Go talk to Alice. Alice understands Rec Room virtual reality better than in Christian space, better than anybody else I know. And Alice, I don't know how many of them actually go to you, but I love that you're in that space, helping out the churches that you are in that. By the way, I love what Alice says here. My first experience in VR chat was very much 18 plus in a similar way. But that is why we need positive spaces. That's why the church needs to be there, people. And as much as the world will downplay and wants to run away from the dark spaces validate our need to be there. Salt doesn't really work when you just lick it out of the salt container, although my kid does that. Salt works when it goes into the thing that it's supposed to make salty. Salt's incredible on popcorn. Salt's incredible. I don't know. Figure it out. I love this. Salt doesn't work by Bluetooth. I love to. Okay. All right. Mr. La La. All right. I got another country represented in here. Unpack for me Bluetooth. I'm not. I think I'm feeling that, but I want you to. I want you to tell me here. Light drives out darkness. Darkness cannot overcome the light. I love that. I mean, I literally just watched Oppenheimer, so I'm tempted to say, well, a black hole can overcome the light, but I know what you're saying, so forgive my being an idiot. Um, yeah, that's good. I've had so much fun. I'm glad I didn't come in with an agenda today and just kind of rolled with it. So thank you guys. I appreciate this. Good time. My church is transitioning. Yeah, but that's great. My church is transitioning from a digital to a hybrid. Imagine Church is going. Stacy, what's the name of the hybrid church? What's it going to be? Is it Imagine Church, or are they going with the old name, or what are they calling it? Imagine. Okay, so the church is rebranding to Imagine. That's good to know. I need to talk to your people. Wait, Rock RMS is going to be in Phoenix. I didn't realize that for the conference. I might. I said I was going to go this year. Maybe I can bogart a ticket. I'll have to make some calls. All right, Mistala, we have to be in the soup to make a difference. We can't influence by proxy. So Bluetooth by distance proxy, you got to get in there. I like that. That's good. Towards that. What did Alice say? It's a wee bit difficult to help someone in a dark valley by refusing to come down from the top of your mountain. That's true. It's especially in digital. That's a great segue. So I'm going to actually transition here. We're going to land the plane. Check this out. We talk a lot about that in digital ministry. Physical ministry, it's very easy to stay clean. Come to the building, it's come and see. Everybody looks nice and dressed up when they come to a physical church building. The homeless guy comes in wearing dirty stuff. Oftentimes, the physical church building, you drive him away, you kick him out. You got to behave. Can't have crazy people. That's what security's for. Let's keep everybody clean and orderly, sitting in rows in physical church ministry. I'm not knocking it. That works for some people, but we have a challenge. We have an opportunity. Yes, Bogart, Stacy. We have an opportunity to do something different digitally, and that's getting down and dirty with people, living with them. But Jeff, we're distance. Yeah, but you can still relate. You can still engage. You can still dialogue. You can still be there with somebody, even via remote distance. Stacy, actually in here, is one of the the best, and she's a champion of grief companionship, which is, for the most part, for her, all done via digitally, dealing with people when they're like, I've lost someone. How can I process my grief and pain? Well, she does that remotely. Yes, you can do that physically. It may or may not be better done in physical space, but it certainly can be done remotely. And Stacy's a walking testimony to that. Megan, a lot of what she's doing deals with mental health and actually like counseling people dealing with mental issues. And that's, to be honest, done, I almost want to say, more effectively digitally than physically. I am not the authority to stamp that, but you can have as many conversations as good conversations digitally as physically. And actually, to that point, my email is actually getting blown up right now by Dr. Carl Benzio of the American Association of Christian Counselors, who's going to come on. He's going to do a podcast show with actually Megan and I coming up in a couple weeks through the Church Digital. We're diving into a season on mental health. I think we need to understand, as the church, we need to understand the stigmas that are surrounding mental health. B, I think that we as digital missionaries, as digital pastors, as volunteers doing ministry in platforms instead of places, we need to understand and learn how to protect ourselves as we're doing ministry in that space. Three, I think we need to understand how to do ministry with people that are going through crisis, that are going through grief, that are going through mental health issues, or that have um, different things that'll come up of that. And so it's funny, like this has been, I've been talking with Stacy, I saw Stacy pop up in chat. I've been talking with Megan about doing this for months, and just it kept getting delayed and some other things moving around, but I am so excited. This is like the favorite season that I've done in months. I've been wanting to do this honestly for a couple of years, and we just haven't had the right time. And so it's actually starting. We're doing an interview tomorrow here on Discord, and then we'll roll it out. What's the date it rolls out? Like the first Monday. I think that's the third, right? Is it Monday the third? Monday the 5th, it'll roll out on VOD and on podcasts. But Monday we've got DJ Chong, who's an advocate for mental health. He's actually speaking at Mental Health and Ministry conference that's happening coming up, and a huge proponent of digital ministry. Dude was doing digital ministry 20 years. Like he was like doing it back when I got started. I mean, that's how old school he is. Jay Crandall's been doing it 15 years out of Saddleback, and Jay got nothing compared to DJ Chong. And so DJ is coming on with us tomorrow at noon Eastern, having this conversation, talking about specifically mental health stigmas in church with DJ Chong. But we're starting tomorrow. Mental health. No, what are we calling it? Digital and mental health. Digital and mental health. Actually, that's bad. I should know the name of the season. I wrote it somewhere, but we'll have it official tomorrow. I'll have my ducks in a row. Better set up, guys. This has been really good. I want to hang out with you guys. Actually, Stacy. I keep saying Stacy when I mean Megan. Megan, I think Tyler Sansom canceled on me. He did cancel on me. I guess so. I was supposed to meet with him right now. I was supposed to meet with Stacy's boss about something not related to Stacy, because that's weird. But I think he bumped me to Thursday, which is fine. Hey, but I'm going to wrap up, and I'm going to land the plane. We're going to on the Discord channel, we'll start talking. I'll start putting in the events a lot of the season of what's coming up in mental health. You can actually see all the people and all the dates right now are in the TCD, the Church Digital podcast channel. So check that out. We're also spinning up. Wait, that's a church coming up as well. That'll be a standalone show starting very soon. Lots of changes, lots of opportunities, lots of things moving here at the Church Digital. And that's not even what makes me excited. It makes me excited. But the stuff that I want to tell you about, I can't. And neither can Flat Cap. So more coming very soon for the Church Digital. Stay tuned, and it's going to be great. Hey, let me pray for us. I don't know that I've ever prayed on a stream, but I'm just I'm feeling led to. So let me pray for us as we're heading off of this, and y'all have a good one. Hey, God, thank you for this friend. Thank you for these friends. Thank you for this community. Thank you for um, the opportunities just to encourage one another in this space digitally. God, thank you for the vision and the calling that you've given us to look at platforms as places and to reach in and do ministry with the people that maybe our buildings aren't effectively reaching. God, be the light in our darkness. Help us to see the light and the path that you're paving for us, and bring us to people that need to see your light as well. Allow us opportunities to serve and to minister to people in unique ways. Um, and God, thank you for allowing us and using us the way that you do. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, everybody. I'm landing the plane. I am turning off the recording. Y'all have a good one.